Thank you all for being here for the Food Inequalities Rebellion event that is standing in solidarity with Sudan. We are joined by registered dietitian and global health public nutritionist, Salma, Abdulrahman, and Taha, who is also a registered nutritionist specializing in public health nutrition, Dr. Amal Abdalla, who is a community pediatric specialty doctor and working with the West Hertfordshire Community Paediatrics for the NHS Trust. And then Mr. Abdelrahim Hassan, who is an international patient coordinator and a political activist. We really look forward to learning more about what's happening in Sudan and how we can be of support. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Warm welcome to our speakers. And personally, I would like to say thank you for Food Inequalities Rebellion for giving us this chance to raise the awareness about Sudan and the military coup when took place on 25th of October. Our first speaker, Mr. Abdelrahim Hassan, will talk about the political issue and situation over there. Welcome, Mr. Abdelrahim.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for this great opportunity to talk about Sudan and what is happening in Sudan. I would like to thank all of you and organizers, Food Rebellion UK, and actually, in fact, this is a great solidarity with the Sudanese people, especially now more than 3 years, people of Sudan on the streets, marching peacefully day after day for one quest, and one quest only: democracy and the rules of the civil state, losing martyrs after martyr, and they never give up. So they deserve to be supported and looked after. So thank you very much for this meeting or for this event. Really appreciating, and of course our people in Sudan will appreciate this, specifically when we're talking about equality and food equality. Of course, human rights are touched here. Like the first thing is for people is to live, the right to live, and the right to have access to food and life, to have access to all human rights. But this is one of the most important, and it's really touching what is happening now in Sudan, why it is exploiting now, why it is people are still on the streets. To start with, the government official, I wanted to be not to be more into political things, but 65%, I think the figure of the poverty rate, this is the latest estimated by the Ministry of Finance in 2020, and still, and if there is anything happening, this will be worse. Maybe it's reached to 70, maybe it reached to any other figure. But in fact, this is what is happening: prices and food. People have no access to food. People have no access to water, even in cities. Plus the other thing that the health facilities, basic health needs are not fulfilled because of the whole conflict, because of the problems that we have been through, and the intervention of the international world in a the international community in a negative way, which is that's not the Sudanese people want, or what was the Sudanese people revolted against the outset al-Bashir era. So I will just give some informations. Maybe people are aware of it or they know about it, but it may help. First of all, Sudan is the third largest country in Africa, with the total area of 1,882,000 square kilometers. The population is around 44 million. The country sparsely populated and shares international borders with Egypt, Eritrea, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Central African Republic, Chad, and Libya. The river Nile traverses the country from south to north, providing a crucial water source, while the Red Sea washes close to 900 kilometers of the eastern coast, making Sudan a sea bridge between Africa and the Middle East. Sudan is a mix of African and Arab country. We can say Sudan is both African and Arab country, with Arabic being the most widely spoken language. Over 97% of the population are Sunni Muslims, with a small Christian community. The 2019 revolution, mostly led by women and youth, has presented the people of Sudan with a unique opportunity to transform their nation. In so doing, they will need to address the multiple development challenges Sudan faces with its fragile environment, with drought and desertification, reflected in vulnerability to climate change, limited basic services, and history of exclusionary development and conflict. This is just a small introduction about what is in Sudan generally, or introducing Sudan to people whom they are not aware of what is happening. Political-wise, as we said, in 2019, after 30 years of dictatorship of outsetted al-Bashir, being the revolution succeeded started in 2018, and people get al-Bashir out of the government and his party in 2019, April 2019, which being controlled from the beginning by the military and the security committee, which was the al-Bashir working with al-Bashir, plus the political parties and the political organizations, those whom they were fighting for democracy and civil government. An agreement between, after mediation from other countries, from United Arab Emirates, from Ethiopia, from the Troika, from other European countries, there was an agreement between the military and the civil society, led to a government headed by Prime Minister Abdalla Hamdok. And then there was constitutional paper or document that's been signed by these parties, by the military as well, which was putting us as human rights defenders and civil society defenders and callers in a very critical situation, because we have to, our people have to sit with the military, which makes a very strange combination, how the military could be involved in a civil government. And our predictions, this will not go on, was proved, unfortunately proved right, because after 2.5 years, which is after 2 years, which was supposed to be 3 years, the generals, the military, made a coup, which is arrested, took all the forces, the forces of freedom out of the government, and arrested even Dr. Abdalla, the ex-prime minister. And now this is what is going on, but it started in June 2019 when there was a massacre being done, or massacre committed in June, the 3rd of June 2019. More than 150 participants were killed, plus a huge number of people were injured, and more than disappeared people. They are not till now. We don't know where they are. So that was the start, and then again we carried on with forming. The military is controlling all the economic, or all the large, or the big companies, the industrial sector, and all the country resources was were and is still under the hands of the military. And the military here, we're talking about the official, that's the Sudan government forces, plus a new forces, that is Janjaweed, Rapid Speed Forces. Strange, I mean, like, surprise, not, maybe this is a surprise to you. The generals of these, or the leaders of these forces, they were part of the genocide in Darfur. So Hamdan Daglo, or Al Burhan, whom they are now the president of the what you call it, Honorable Council, plus his deputy, Al Burhan, and General Al Burhan, and General Hamdan Daglo. Plus, also they are the people whom they are the generals whom they are doing the agreement and doing the trouble around the area. They are quite and deeply involved in the war of Yemen, where a lot of problems are there as well. That's why there is some countries like United Arab Emirates, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, they are involved, and they are supporting these generals to continue in their taking in the power. Yeah, and one of the things that you can imagine, if all the resources, all the sectors, all the productive sectors was in the hands of the militaries, in the hands of murderers and killers, like the people whom they are leading this government now in Sudan. You can imagine how our people in Sudan living, how they are getting their food, how they are getting their access to the main or their main needs, from like food, water, and public health. After the coup, and still the coup is there, still the government is not, or this military junta, they are not able to form a civilian government, or to find the civilian chairs, apart from the people whom they are already supporting them. But still, as I said, for the more than 3 years now, since 2019 or end of 2018, people of Sudan on the streets, and since October 2021, they managed to kill more than 88 from Sudanese people whom they are protesting peacefully in Sudan. I don't want to talk about maybe Dr. Amal will talk about how they are standing, or how they are, what they are doing actually into the health facilities, and how is the health workers is being, how they have been killed, how they are detaining people from the hospitals, from the government facilities or private clinics, staff and demonstrate protesters. This I will definitely, Dr. Amal will put more on that. The transitional council was to run the country for about 3 years until democratic elections were held. The military coup took place before the transitional council presidency was to be passed from General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan to a civilian leader, according to the agreement that established it. From the outset, there was much about as to whether the transitional council would fulfill the mission, and whether it would not just able the military to organize and seize the power in the era following General Omar al-Bashir rule. Indeed, the council announced that it will be extradited General Omar al-Bashir to the ICC, but this till now did not happen, and it's not, we cannot see it happen. Maybe he will be free soon by his own generals, actually. Repealed laws of the previous military dictatorship that restricted freedom of expression and association, and even indicated new laws that prompted women's rights and appointed women to government position. But at the same time, human rights violation and crimes by security forces and affiliated militias have continued throughout the country, and military officials continued to control the economy and the resources of the state. Both General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and his Deputy General Mohammed Hamdan Daglo violently suppressed the popular protest against General Omar al-Bashir until the very last moment, when they realized that this was a lost struggle for them and they had to abandon it. Some of the protesters were abducted and severely tortured. Some were forcibly disappeared, and some were executed. General Muhammad Hamdan Daglo used the murderous RSF until against the participant in the popular protest, and still this is happening since June 3rd, 2019, and unit soldiers fired live rounds at the demonstrators who participated in a sit-in strike and killed at least 100 people. Both General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and his deputy General Muhammad Hamdan Daglo were involved in genocide crimes against humanity and war crimes in the Darfur region, as well as other parts of Sudan. The RSF SF and unit consists of Janjaweed militia fighters who, with the support of the Sudanese army, began carrying out genocide in Darfur early as 2003 in the incarnation of the Janjaweed militias under the framework of Rapid Speed Forces Unit, established in 2013 under General Muhammad Hamdan Daglo. Whole villages were burned, villagers were massacred, and women and girls were raped. And this is still going on, and this is still happening till now. In his senior roles in the military and intelligence units, General Burhan was also involved in committing crimes against humanity and war crimes in the civil war in South Kordofan and Blue Nile areas since from their homes and forced hide in caves and swamps with minimal humanitarian service. The one who pulls the strings in Sudan and support the generals is United Arab Emirates, and also they get support from Saudi Arabia, and they get support from Russia, and with people around the world, European countries and USA turning blind eye. They just giving shameful or shameless from time to time, I mean, like condemning what is happening, but there is no action.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Abdelrahim.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Amal will cover or explain the effect of the coup on the health system, and also what are the expectations from as the British citizen from the UK government. Welcome, Dr. Amal.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate Food Inequality Rebellion. Thank you very much, Salma, for letting me know about this, and thank you for inviting me. I prepared quick slides just to kind of guide the talk. I'm one of the doctors working in the UK, medical doctor. We all, as doctors in the UK, worked tirelessly, not only us, most of the other professionals, since the revolution started, or to be more accurate, since actually the original dictator took over in 1989. If you know anything about the history of Sudan, we had minimum period of democracy since our independence. Because every time we try to breathe, a coup come along, and imperial powers or Western powers or the New World or the powerful countries or whatever you want to call it end up supporting that regime somehow. So we did not manage actually to live any meaningful democracy. That's why the political and the professional are mixed in Sudan. Like, you will expect me to give you a speech on health, But in fact, I can't, because at the moment, there is nothing we can do as doctors, whether we work abroad or we work in Sudan, in our profession. We're trying to help our colleagues in Sudan by supporting them, trying to live and work and treat the injured, learning about gunshot and learning about how to keep yourself safe as a doctor from being arrested or prosecuted purely because you're a doctor. Several martyrs in these revolutions are doctors and health professionals. Several victims are patients. Only lately, a couple of weeks ago, a patient in the hospital was arrested and accused of killing security personnel or some person in the government, and he's still in prison, being harassed and punished on daily basis, and he might even lose his life. So, as a matter of fact, this is the reality of us, of our lives in Sudan right now. So the professionals took on their part of their duties, or become a main duty, to actually become part of the resistance, and they did lead the resistance at some point. Going back to what I was saying, as I said, I'm a specialist in pediatrics. I work in community pediatrics in the UK, and a member of the Sudanese SDU, which is our union as Sudanese doctors in the UK, and also the British Sudanese Association for Pediatric and Child Health. So I would briefly touch on the issues that I'm not going to talk again about the political side, but we have a revolution in Sudan. and this revolution is leading us at the moment into an area where we're not familiar with, because the couple of revolutions we had through our history were brief and short and led to semi-peaceful period, but then followed by another coup, as I mentioned. So to have a revolution which is carrying on for 3 years so far, with so many people being lost their lives, and almost every Sudanese house, whether they are in Sudan or abroad, touched by this, it is an unusual territory. And even though we are emotionally prepared, but otherwise we're not prepared, and that's why we are asking for support and help. The reason everything this, we say revolution, you say uprising, you say chaos, as Volker, who is the UN representative, have actually called it crisis, but we see it as revolution. And the reason we see it as revolution, because this uprising, since it started, has spread beyond our imagination and beyond our expectation. For example, you see here a photo of traditional Sudanese Sufis, who are purely religious group. They only practice their own religious kind of activities, usually quite limited in their own very limited areas, in their characteristic colorful shawls and the like, but they have actually joined the revolution. They've joined the revolution, and in some areas of Sudan, they led the revolution. And people might know a prominent person out of the group called Sheikh Taiba, who has actually died recently. He was a protector of the protesters. He used to offer them shelter and food, and he announced it very openly in a dangerous time that he's a supporter of the revolution. Next, please. Secondly, this revolution have actually passed through religious, race, ages, and all other limitations. It is everywhere. It's in every house. It's becoming a culture. Even people who cannot take to the streets are believers of the revolution. Now in Sudan, it is very clear. You either a supporter of the revolution, or you are with the old regime. There is no middle ground. And those two photos, just to say, we women, when we put our mind into something, we do it. We know how to manage houses, how to raise children, and how to support our offsprings, and how to protect them, and how to lead or manage the economy of the house. And we also know how to lead a revolution. On the left side, there are Sudanese youth women. They are out there. They are protesting on a daily basis. Some of them hiding from their families and parents who are worried about them and don't want them to be in the streets. And they are rightly so, because these girls are not safe in the streets. We all know about the rape, the harassment, the sexual abuse, which happening by the regime and the people in the streets. To the right, this is Sitt al-Nufur. Sitt al-Nufur is the young protester, a young Sudanese activist, a young woman with vision and with wishes and hopes for the future. She lost her life, shot in the street of Khartoum with live ammunition, just because she's out there protesting. When the US ambassador visited her family to say his condolences, her parents told him that we never took to the street. We never thought we are revolutionists. It was only Sitt al-Nufur. She was the only one out of the family who out there. But now we are all on the street. All of us are in the street. So when we say there is a revolution of Sudan, what does actually this revolution want? We want Hurriya, Salam, and Abdalla. These are the three words which being chanted on the streets of Sudan once and again and over and over and over. Hurriya is freedom, Salam is peace, Abdalla is justice. So if people are taking to the streets peacefully, with no violence whatsoever, calling only for these three words, how on earth that they can be ignored? Initially, I asked, what do we actually want? Why I'm talking about this? Why do we want the world to hear about this? But before we do that, let us ask first, what do we don't want actually? What are the things that are happening right now and we don't want them to happen? The reason I'm saying that, because this revolution has actually revolutionized the way that people think as well. People originally and traditionally and the classic way of thinking all over the world, oh, there is a revolution somewhere, there is an uprising somewhere, let's make sure that our resources are protected, let's make sure that there will be somebody there who are actually going to carry on caring for our interest in the area, let's make sure this chaos, whatever it is, does not spell out. And then we come to some sort of a peaceful agreement, and let us just move on and carry on, care about the things we really care about. So the things that we Sudanese don't want, we don't want the West, and when I say the West, I mean everywhere, basically, outside of the area, our region, including the rest of Africans, by the way. But generally speaking, this is where political decisions are made, and that's why we care, not because we want the West to do anything for us. We are capable of creating our own future. We know our resources, we know our power, but we don't want people to side by our enemies. If you don't want to support us, and I'm talking here to the governments and the international organizations, if they don't want to support us directly and protect our newly born movements and vision, then at least do not support our oppressors. You cannot side with the oppressors and pretend that we are not powerful enough. Obviously, we're not going to be powerful enough. For example, when a US or ambassador or representative or a United Nations representative come to Khartoum and ask to speak to everybody and call them stakeholders, including the people who are literally killing us on daily basis on the street, then we cannot side with him. We cannot trust him. And even though Sudanese people from different backgrounds, some of them civil communities, some of them neighborhood resistance committees, which is very popular now in Sudan and growing, some of them have met him because they just don't want to be known to refuse negotiation. But these are not negotiation. These are attempts to return back to before the October 25th, to what was happening before the coup. The coup was not a surprise, by the way. The coup was a natural product because there is no way on earth that you can have a government which link military, which is actually militias. They are mercenaries, they are private paid militias. They're not a national army, and you have an agreement between them and the civilian government and pretend that everything is going to be okay. These people don't know the rule of law. They are criminals. They killed thousands of Sudanese in Darfur, and they're doing the same in Khartoum. They are working for their own benefit. They are lying, straight lie to the West and pretend that they're protecting the West from the immigration. And we all probably heard the Khartoum process and what has happened behind the closed doors. So those people cannot come and pretend that they can actually have any peaceful agreement anywhere. They have not been punished. Justice is not being served. So why on earth are they going to just suddenly change to be those innocent people who want to protect us all? There is no way. The second point and the usual go-to area is to find the old kind of elite politicians who actually drawn Sudan back to the chaos that we are in. They are the cause of this chaos. To bring them back again and resuscitate them after they've already dead for years because the streets have passed them, and bring them over and say, oh, they can do it. For example, when Hamdok took over, we all cheered him up. People carried his photos on the streets. We thought he will protect our rights, even though we knew this kind of an agreement is doomed. But because we were hopeful, because Sudanese, 60% of Sudanese are youth, are young people, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, because they were willing to give every chance for peace, a chance and possibility of getting to a place better than when we were, because everybody was in upbeat that we managed to actually get rid of Bashir after 30 years. So that's why we gave Hamdok government a chance. But the thinking behind it was not a revolution thinking. The thinking behind it was just a matter of getting by. And this is why it failed. Now, what also we don't want, these are the flags of Egypt and Emirates. What the Western governments are doing, they're washing our hands from what's going on in Sudan, and they're actually giving this assignment to the regional powers which they trust. They trust that the Egyptians and probably the Qatarians and probably the Saudis and the others will actually protect their interest in the area. And they treat us, the Sudanese people, the ancestors of our ancestors are queens and kings. You know that. We know we are descendants of the Kosh kingdom. Okay, we are not people to be messed with. But they are giving this assignment to those other countries around us without actually talking to us directly. The Sudanese people laugh when the Emiratis are coming to protect us or talk on our behalf. Why do we laugh? Because the Sudanese professionals, they're the one who went into Emirates in the 70s, and they helped to build this country from scratch. From scratch. Sudan was a well-known place, was quite flourishing in the 60s and 70s. We were just coming into age. And at that time, we had our universities for hundreds of years. And at that time, we expats went over to the Gulf to help to build these countries from nothing. So for them to come back to tell us that we are supposed to follow them, it was a joke. It was a joke. Not because we are arrogant, but because we know our place and we know our power. So what are we hoping to get? And we as Sudanese live in Britain, to be very honest, the mood is disappointment. Again, not because we want the British to descend in Khartoum and save us. Far from it. Actually, most of Sudanese do not want any interference from anybody. But we want equal treatment. We want to be treated with respect. We want people to make a point of dealing with us. We want the Brits to have a far vision, not a short vision. You cannot be part of the Troika and you cannot employ somebody like Hemeti to be your man in Sudan. This is an insult for us as Sudanese people. We've been living in Britain. Most of us carry the British nationality. Most of us vote in the election. Most of us are peaceful people, law-abiding people. We are not demanding. We're not making any fuss, which I actually blame ourselves for that. But the reason before that, because we have integrity, we're not going to go and beg for help, but we ask people like a country like Britain to actually fill their shoes, to act as this great country that it is. Don't side with the oppressors. Be very open and frank to actually say it as it is. It is a coup. On the 25th of October, there was a coup from the military section of the government, took over power, and now at the moment they are redoing whatever we've done over the last 2 years. They're letting criminals off prison. They're putting people who've been criminalized back in power in their positions where they were before the revolution. They're holding it again into the economy as they were. And they are Islamists. They are clearly, they've said it themselves, they're not hiding it. They have political views. That's the problem. In Sudan right now, we don't have a national army because all of it, especially the high ranks, have been politicized. They're all Islamist. The same party of al-Bashir. So for Britain to give a blind eye to this situation, it just makes us feel more and more abandoned. The other issue is that there is no exercise of any interest of what's going on in Sudan. Now, going back to the question that why do I actually care? Why am I inviting the West or the Brits or the UN or any other outside power to look in Sudan? Why don't we just carry on and do what we're doing right now? Number one, because we think we are part of this world, right? We're not going to be able to build our country on our own. We have to have collaboration. We have to have shared interest. We have to have international relation. And we're looking into the future because currently in Sudan, the resistance committees, which are neighborhood committees, are actually having dialogue between themselves. And their drafts are coming out of their vision. It's a vision of new Sudan. This is going to happen no matter what. Whether we've been supported or not supported is going to happen anyway, because this is what history have taught us all over the years. Nothing stayed the same. Currently, the coup in Sudan, the military in Sudan is unable to govern. They cannot govern people that they are in the street day and night. They do not care if they are hungry. They do not care if they are ill. They do not care if they lose everything. Those youth in the street, and as I said earlier, 60% of the Sudanese people are young. They're under the age of 40. All of these people, they strongly believe in the revolution. Situation has changed in Sudan. The geopolitics have changed in Sudan. Those youth, this generation, is very aware of their abilities. They are strong believers of their abilities. They say the military has the weapons and we have everything. They've already started drafting their vision for the new Sudan. They work in a decentralized manner. They don't care who's the boss. They don't care who's in power. They don't care that Volker is going around chatting to corrupt people, right, left, and center. They don't care if US ambassador is coming and telling them that it's a crisis. When he actually said that, there was a new statement came out of the first new towns in Sudan where revolution spark started, and they've told him this is not a crisis, this is a revolution. Can you please use the right term? Those people are fearless. That's why I've said they're brave. That's why I've said we're gonna win no matter what. So that's why I'm inviting the outside powers to decide where they want to sit. Which side of the fence are we on? Do we want to be on the side of the backward oppressors, people who are not gonna thrive, or are we gonna be on the side of Hurriya, Salam, Abdalla? So one day, the Sudanese people will remember who actually stood by them. They will remember who actually chose to stand by them, even though we were still weak and small and dominated. This is the way that we look at from outside. People are looking at us that we're fragile, that we're small, that we're not supported. But the problem with this vision, it's a very short-sighted vision, because you cannot put weight or a price on bravery and beliefs. And as I mentioned before, history has actually taught us in Sudan today, there are almost daily protests in the street. We don't call them protests, we call them processions, because it's a group of people who are moving in a very organized manner. And every time they're coming up with new ideas, how to survive in the street, how to become more, how to invite more. Currently, the parents of martyrs are leading the streets, because traditionally it used to be full of young people. But as parents are seeing their children dying, they started to come out as well. Women are out in the street. It is not shameful anymore to be in the street like it used to be in the early days. So that's why I'm saying this is coming no matter what. The government, or whatever you want to call them, the coup, the militia, the powerful people now in Sudan, they're losing grounds every day, because they decided that they're gonna do whatever to stay in power. So to kill is natural for them, is normal. They practice it and they don't care. The more they kill, the more people are hating them, and the more people are sticking to the revolution. I've been asked earlier to talk about what's happening in hospitals, but to be very honest, what's happening in hospitals is happening everywhere. is happening in houses. There are tear gases being thrown inside hospitals. The story goes like this: a procession come out, it's been announced, come out in the street. A person or more than one person will be shot, usually dead. He would be dying on the way to hospital. His friends and people in the protest with him, they are all divided into groups. So they will collect him very quickly into a motorcycle. This is the only way of transportation they have to take him to hospital. He will be put in the middle, pressed between the driver and a person on his back, so they can hold him in the middle as he's bleeding. They arrive in the hospital, and then the militia will be behind them, reaching the same hospital, throwing tear gas inside the hospital. So the medical professional, they're between saving themselves, saving the injured who just arrived, or saving the original patients who were there in the first place, who has nothing to do with the event. They're dragging everybody with their oxygen cylinder, with their drips, into the yard so they can breathe. This is happening after every single procession. So there is no words. Nobody can say what's going on in Khartoum right now. It's no time for stories. It's no time to tell people, oh, please look at us, poor us, we are dead in the streets. No, we are beyond that point. We have a political views, we have new vision for new Sudan, and we're asking people to stand by us for their own sake. Babies, this picture is not unique. Babies in Sudan are carrying the flag and going out and shouting the slogans. So people can choose. You either stand with your conscience or you just turn a blind eye. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amal. I will talk about the food insecurity in Sudan. As Mr. Abdelrahim said, as a Republic Sudan or Northern Sudan, the country is the northern east of Africa with 40 million people living in 18 states. Sudan main crops including cotton, peanuts, sesame, gum Arabic, and sorghum. The main subsistence groups are sorghum. Sudan has the largest irrigated area in sub-Saharan Africa and the second largest in all Africa after Egypt. I will talk about the food insecurity pillars. Firstly, I will talk about the food availability. The last 5 years, the production of sorghum and wheat not sufficient to cover the consumption needs. But unfortunately, after the coup, the availability of food increased, not because the situation getting better, but because people, they have no money to buy food. I will explain this later in the food utilization. I will go to food accessibility. We know that the accessibility consists of the political factors and also the affordability. All the prices rises dramatic and sharp rises due to devaluation and of currency and also for inflation. People, they haven't enough money to buy food, and also the prices get it very unbelievable. Changing happened since the coup, and now people sometimes they have like difficulty to get one meal per day. If I talk about the food utilization, in rural area, they use, for example, the charcoal and the wood for cooking. But unfortunately, nowadays, even in the capital of Khartoum, the people, they use the wood and they use the charcoal for cooking instead of the gases, because the gases become very expensive plus its shortage of gases is not available anymore. If I talk about the food stability affected by the seasons, for example, in Sudan generally, in the lymph season, which starts from May until July, the people, they find difficulty to collect water. And in the rain fall, the stability become better, but unfortunately, in that season, they increase the outbreak of diseases like diarrhea, like because of contamination of water, and also because of like the poor hygiene. I want to explain some about the IPC, which is abbreviation of Integrated Food Insecurity Phase Classification. It's a tool used to detect the grade of food insecurity or the grade of crisis. If we will see the acute food insecurity was happened in May, in April 2021, most of Sudanese state is classified as the crisis, grade 3. Okay, and if we see the classification from October 2021 until February now 2022, we see we moved from crisis to stressed. But in fact, not because the food is available for everyone. In fact, the food is available in the market, but unfortunately, no one able to buy it. And this is one of the weaknesses of the IPC. Everyone, if they see this picture, they said, Sudan, we're getting well, Sudan, we're getting better, Sudan, the crisis is decreased, and they move to another stage. But unfortunately, this is not true. Now the people is suffering to buy food, even to buy like the basic needs, the bread, the milk. That is like, this is the one of the weaknesses of the IPC. I want to explain that to you, and also to the other, because this is not true. The situation in Sudan is getting very worse, not like the IPC mentioned to you. And now I hand over to my colleague Noura. She will talk about the severe malnutrition crisis in Sudan.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I can't open the video because my internet, but I hope you can hear me. Malnutrition is the lack of nutrients and vitamins and minerals deficiency, and it's in children is just one of the highest. It has high rates in the world, like around 149 million children under the age of 5 are affected with malnutrition. And there are 3 classifications for malnutrition: moderate, which is wasting, and severe acute malnutrition, which is known as stunting and underweight. In Sudan, the highest type of malnutrition in Sudan is known as severe acute malnutrition, is the most one that's found in Sudan. And I have worked with the malnutrition in Sudan in different hospitals and also in fields. So the treatment we use is that they bring the mother to the center, to some centers in Sudan, and they give them plumpinut, which is ready to use food, therapeutic food, and and there's like nutritionists and dietitians. They sit and explain to the mother and how much packs they give her, and they don't take the plumpinut packs home. They feed them. We just feed them in the center. The child receives around from 6 to 8 weeks of plumpinut, and supported by treatments also from like physicians and nurses. At the hospital, we used like formula like F75 and F70. We start by F70 and then we move on to F75. The health system in Sudan is known by the national or federal, state, and local government. Sudan's health system has around like workforces like 1.9 doctors and nurses per 1,000. And there's also poor quality in patient treatments in severe acute malnutrition and also in pediatrics and children health. Like most of the people, when I was working in Sudan, most of the patients, they don't go through with all their treatments. Some parents, they leave the treatment halfway and they run from the hospital. Like doctors, next day they don't find the patient because they couldn't pay for all of the treatment for their child, so they have to leave the hospital. So there's so many high cases of children just disappearing from the hospital just because they couldn't afford paying for the treatment. And they're known that there's 70% of doctors and nurses work in urban areas. Even only 20% work in rural areas in Sudan, from professional medical professions. And there's so many challenges regarding programs for children and especially severe acute malnutrition. There's known that the production of plumpy nuts in Sudan is not sufficient to cover all of Sudan, to the point that there's some people that they have to export from outside. That means that there's really high rates of malnutrition happening in Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you, Nora. Now you're welcome to receive the question from the floor.
I'm wondering if there's any good sources of information about any of this on the internet for people to research more, and what are some of the actions that you would like us to do as activists in the UK?
There is so many resources. Actually, one of them is the Sudanese Doctors Union in UK. They have a website in English, and they have a Facebook page. And also there is Doctors for Human Rights in Sudan. They have also a website, and they have a Facebook and a Twitter account. There is a Twitter account for Support Sudan. Also, there's so many. I mean, and hashtag Sudan coup, or you will get so many information about also political parties and organizations. But what we can do in the UK, I actually talk to more people, get the government to change, as Dr. Amal, Dr. Abdalla said, that to change their support to the Sudanese military to be on the side of the people and their demands for freedom and peace and justice, to not to get involved in what is exactly the people, to go against the people demands and the revolution slogans and demands. What we are seeing now from the some of the government, including the UK government, that they want to go for what they call a peaceful stability or a peaceful solution. But in fact, this is all ways to get stability in the country, but doesn't matter if the people being suppressed or being killed or being frustrated because their demands and their wishes are not being fulfilled or listened to. So it is not about always. It is not about stability. Stability will come with when justice is done, when freedom is there, when the peace and people whom they are in the camps go back to their villages, go back to their normal life, when people can use or live their own life as human beings, not to be suppressed, not to be deprived from their basic rights. So this is need to be discussed with the UK government and the involvement of the UK government and their sometimes silence when the other countries interfere because of their interest. It doesn't mean that Sudanese people, they're not allowing other countries or UK or any other countries. We know that, as Dr. Amal said, we know that we are part of this world. We interact with the whole world, with the international community, but at the same time, we should that should be equally treated. As other countries have interest, we have interest. We have country as well. We have people. We cannot be forced not to travel, not to move under the what's called illegal immigration, what they're calling, and asking like the murderer Hemeti or Daglo to prevent people from traveling or to protect the benefits or the interest of the European countries by preventing people, financing him to do that job. And countries never, or these governments like the UK, like the European Union, they don't care about what they are doing, what massacres they are doing, what kind of crimes they are doing, what they are by empowering them, by financing them, what kind of wealth they are stealing from the country. So these are, I mean, like these things need to be highlighted with MPs, with ministers in all around UK and in all around Europe. Sudanese people must be here. Sudanese people must be respected, and their rights must not be deprived by any force, either internally or from outside, from other countries.
Just a comment here, really. It seems to me, Abdelrahim, you said that it was women that led the revolution. And Amal, you said that 60% of the processionists are young, and obviously there's many young women risking huge amounts. So just a comment that it seems to me that it's the patriarchy that's the problem, and the military and the generals and the militias that are the problem, and that it's the women that will solve this problem.
May I comment? Yeah, I agree with what Abdulrahman said Abdelrahim said earlier. And I also have just additional comment on what people can do. Very practical things that we all have MPs, we all live in democracy. We can easily write to them. We've been doing this as Sudanese, but as you know, our numbers are not that huge. We're not making huge fuss. But if the pressure comes from other people as well, it's a clear statement that we would like the US, UK, Australian, New Zealanders, French government to align themselves with the goals of our people and criminalize the coup. Nobody ever legitimized a coup all over the world. Why are you legitimizing a coup in Sudan? So either you think we are less of a people, we don't really deserve to have a real democracy, or you don't care. is not your priority. So we are the people, we are the electorate, will make it their priority. And that's a one powerful tool we all have on our fingertips. So back to women, even though I said it's becoming more acceptable for women to be in the streets, that might be an overstatement. It's not hugely acceptable, it's not normal, it's still challenging, but it's becoming a little bit more acceptable than it used to be, just because of the sheer power of women and young people who are in the street, and also because lots of women lost their own children. Like, people are dying on the street right now, their average age is 20. And a lot of them are children, they're below 18. Women cannot hold them in the house when there is a procession. So, and they are all members of the neighborhood committees. The neighborhood committees are literally resistance committees in the neighborhoods. It's very localized, it's very house to house. Everybody knows each other. They all come to school together. They all grow up together. They all play football in the same streets. So they are so knowing each other. They know where to go, how to hide, where to escape, where to meet, what to say. And this is just a spread like fire in Sudan. It's everywhere, west, north, south. And their words are very respected, because during the transition, they played a very important role outside of their scope. They were protecting people, they were reaching the elder, they were, checking on isolated people. The street kids are part of the neighborhood committee, because they found a place where they can be protected. During the sitting in, where Abdelrahim has mentioned earlier that there was a massacre on the 3rd of June, the sitting in arena was the vision of New Sudan. It lasted for 4 months. Correct me, Abdelrahim, if I'm wrong. Around 4 months. It was a peaceful place. And the street kids were taught there, were fed there. Women were cooking there. Normal, ordinary Sudanese women who never leave their homes. Normally, they're not activists. They're not, part of any organized resistance. They used to go and feed the masses in the sitting arena. People were slaughtering animals. They were donating. Engineers were putting up Wi-Fis. And it was what we thought would be the new Sudan, where there is solidarity, where they protect each other. It was visited by so many ambassadors and foreigners, and they were taking their selfies, and it became like a hub, a place to go. So everybody who doesn't have food, who doesn't have a shelter, was living there peacefully. There were not a single crime during those 4 months. The crime only happened on the massacre, when they burned people when they are still asleep, and burned them alive, and they raped them. They raped girls and they raped boys. Some of these girls committed suicide afterward. So life is not easy for women in Sudan, but I think, in my personal opinion, the reason that women has led this revolution, because they were the most oppressed group of people during the 30 years of dictatorship. Women prevented from going out, they were prevented from wearing what they want, they prevented from saying what they think, jobs, marriage, you name it. So for them, it was like a way of just having a voice. And that's why I think the resistance is becoming focused. Unfortunately, during the revolution, during the 2 years transitional period, they did not get anything from what they were promised. So they are even angrier right now. Okay. And as I said, there are some of them are mothers and aunties and uncles of Martha. So when somebody died in a neighborhood, the whole neighborhood turned into resistance the next day, automatically. It's their boy. And the thing is, most of these youth and youngsters who died, killed, shot straight into the eye and others can see, are usually the most energetic, vibrant, active, nice boy who help everybody, who are well educated, who have vision and chatty and outgoing. So their death is usually like a light has just been darkened. So it has a huge reflection. It's different from somebody who died in the hospital or died by a car accident, even though a loss is a loss. And strangely, this has actually unified people more and that's why the revolution is becoming a normalized action right now. Even though the people who go to street are definitely a lesser percentage than the people who don't go in the street. We know that as a fact. You don't need everybody to go in the street, but it's becoming more popular, a little bit more accepted. Girls are having less resistance to go out, but by no means it is a trip for fun. By no means it's easy or safe. None of that. As I said, we have death every single time we take to the street until today. Literally just now before we start, I looked and there was a new martyr today. I think we're almost reaching 100 since the coup. This is the one we know, the one which reached the media, because again, cutting the internet is a recurrent act in Sudan. So even for us to get this information, it's a struggle. And I think, and I'm sure we're not getting even half of the truth, because Sudan is a vast country, as Salma and the others have mentioned. And there are lots of people who live far, far away from the center, where they don't have these facilities to reach, for voices to reach, but they're actually protesting, and we know they are protesting.
What I want to mention here is it is not easy to get such information from internet or media, because media is controlled by in Sudan is controlled by the military, and this is let us most of the fact not coming out for other countries. And I think the main thing that we are looking for from the activists to just raise the awareness of the people here in UK or outside Sudan, because when people aware of what is going on in Sudan, this automatically might affect the government. Yes, we are aware of what's going on. They are human beings, they are killed. So this is number one, to make the awareness. And number two, the people who are experiencing these, seeing their friends, seeing their son killing in front of their eyes and no help, this is mentally affected those people. And even here, while we are here safe, we are safe and our children safe, but this is affected us very badly. I don't know how this affects people there. If there is any sessions that can help the people mentally, I think that will be also great to help the people there.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for having me. Also, for people who don't know me, I'm Dr. Hassan. I am one of the founders of Sudan's Doctors for Human Rights. And when we founded our organization, our first objective is prevention, was prevention actually. And we launched our organization 2 days before the coup. And suddenly we found ourselves in the deep end. And we started firefighting rather than prevention. And our idea was to educate people back home and make sure that human rights are part of the social setup and fabric of the Sudanese people. And we still have this in our objective. But now we are faced with a brutal dictatorship that's violated human rights immensely. And I think the one comment I want to make is that, for everybody, for any human being, there's human rights principles and the basic human rights have been eroded massively in the late years. Everywhere, not just in Sudan, there's some example from this country as well. And that's why human rights violation touches us all, regardless of our nationality or where we come from. And there's a problem with normalization of human rights violation. And I don't know whether you remember when we had, actually UK has been prominent in trying to call for meetings in the Human Rights Council. And I think as far as I know, with regard to Human Rights Council in Geneva, the UK representation had called this a coup. And we did fight to call it a coup. There's no problem with the language used. I think I have problem with actions. So despite we called this really early on is a coup, we called several times for them to stop the violation of human rights. They're still acting with impunity. And it seems that the whole world is perplexed on what to do with them. Possibly we can think about why is that happening? Competing conflict all over the world, especially, and I think that of late, Ukraine has taken a lot of attention away from us. But I think we still can do more, and for people on right to food, obviously our own objective was right to health, but you cannot talk about right to health without tackling right to food and right to shelter and every other rights of the 30 human rights that we know of. What we can do together, I think, is to create a snowball of knowledge and a snowball of activism within the UK. And I think UK and UK Sudanese societies and community have been really prominent on the revolution itself. And whatever happened in London is get transmitted everywhere. It gets to Europe, it gets to Sudan. And some of the chanting in the revolution were actually made here in London. And I think, having a group and getting together and making this a snowball of knowledge and activism among the British society, that will have an immense effect on the revolution. As you've said, Salma, possibly that this revolution is going to win, because there's no way, the way I see it, that this revolution is going to be put down. No matter what Burhan is trying to do with his oppression, it's gone beyond his means of oppressing it. I'm sorry, I've spoken too long. Sorry about that, but this is all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hussam. That was very, very thoughtful, and we appreciate it. I'd like to give our speakers a moment to talk about some things that maybe came up for you, or to address the attendees in any way.
I really thank the people passion to help and asking what we can do. This is a very good sign. So thank you very much. And for Dr. Mujammar, thank you so much for joining today. I loved what you said about the Human Rights Committee that you started, and I think is doing great job so far. Just to clarify, I didn't mean that the British didn't, or the UK government didn't, for example, announce that it is a coup. Initially they did, and many other countries, not just the UK, because it was obviously a coup. It would be very strange if people didn't say it. But then, as you said, afterward, Then it started to taper down and the voices become very quiet. But the UK ambassador, on the night of the coup, the next day, he actually tweeted a video asking for dialogue with the military. He did, on the same time when the British government said it's a coup. So we don't understand where we actually stand. We're not stupid. We know that the West in general, they just wanted things to calm down. You know, we don't want this to carry on forever, and that's it. On top of our dead bodies, that doesn't seem to be important. And I'm sorry to keep saying that, but this is the reality. This is the message we receive as people. So there is no other way to understand it. And that's why I'm asking for clarity and I'm asking for pressure so people can be clear. Even if they're against us, it's far better to be clear in your statement and your actions that you are against us, so we know, rather than to play the game where it suits you. This is really doesn't suit us anymore, and it's not acceptable. Blank point. So that's what I meant. Somebody asked about how are we with the other Africans. I'm not aware of any official collaboration, but I always see videos and tweets and comments coming from African countries whenever something big happens in Sudan, when one of these processions is reaching the governmental palace or making a mark or managing to capture something or getting something. So we know that they hear us and we know that they are aware of what's happening. And some of the messages coming from places like Congo and Mali and Niger and down in Africa, that people don't stop. We know you're there. Don't stop. We love you. We like it. And some people are wearing T-shirts with the Sudanese revolution, even in Arabic, when it's not their mother language. So we know that it's vibrating everywhere. But unfortunately, the African Union as a political power, again, they're playing the same game. I went to the Sudan Interfaith Week in Geneva a couple of years ago, and we lobbied for a week before the session so we can meet with all the representatives. And the African have said it very clearly that if Sudan, at that time Bashir is still in power, they said if the representative of Sudan did not ask us to talk about their problems, we're not going to talk about them. So they're basically just a front, as far as I'm concerned. They only talk if the government has come and talked to them and said, oh, by the way, I would like you to talk about the problems we are having in Sudan. We are killing people in the street every day. That's not going to happen. So I'm not relying on them, but I'm not giving up either, because as I said earlier, we understand the political games and we understand that we have to play it at some point, but we just want the chance to be able to have a seat and a say so we can actually contribute either way. So that's my personal opinion. I'm not representing anybody at this moment. And just a quick comment on what Iman has said earlier about this, why this revolution is unique. In Sudan, they call it Thawrat Wa'i, the revolution of awareness, because they want to change everything. They are not just against the coup or Bashir or the government. They're against all the way of thinking. The thinking that's put us backward for years and years. I am telling you, this generation is different. They connected with each other. They understand their language. They connected with the rest of the world. They know how rich their country is. We are very, very rich country underneath the earth and above the earth. We have rivers, we have plants, we have animals, we have gold, we have sand, we have your name, you name it. Resources are endless. And this is part of the problem. That's why the Russians are there, and that's why the Chinese are there. But when they come with their heavy machineries looking for gold, they actually wipe the villages from the planet of Earth. so they can mine the gold. This is what I'm talking about. Those people are treating us as if we're the backyard of the world. It doesn't matter what happens to us as humans. They are aware of the resources, they are aware of the interest, they are aware of our unique position between Africa and the Middle East and the Arab world, and the connection to the rest of the world, and the Red Sea. The Emiratis would like Sawakin to be there. The Russians are coming with all their power because they have their military base there. And nobody is bothered who are these people who are actually living there. And I'm not blaming them 100% because our government is selling us out. They're taking the commission into their pocket. They granted their immunity, so they're not going to be prosecuted for their shameful crimes against humanity. We know what happened in Darfur. So for those people, they're playing the game. We've been paid by the Russian and the Chinese and the European Union, and we're going to do what they want. But those 40 millions who are living in Sudan right now, nobody is counting them in their calculations. Nobody. And this is the voice which is coming out right now. And they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. And that's why I'm asking Thawrat Wa'i, the revolution of awareness. People want to be treated with dignity. They want to be treated with dignity and respect. And that's what they're calling for. Nobody ever come out the street asking for bread or water or money, even though they have none of them. There is no slogan asking for bread in Sudan. None. And more than 60% live below poverty. It's just telling you that we have to reassess our thoughts and our beliefs. And that's what I was trying to reach to.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdalla. It's very moving and very poignant. One of our members here, Kate, has said that, so when the revolution of awareness has achieved its goals, Sudan will need to resist the external forces and the desire for Sudan's resources. Yeah.
Very true, very true.
Well, we've got about 10 minutes left, so I'd just like to give the speakers a moment to just say some final thoughts, maybe some action areas where we can help join and help support that haven't been mentioned.
Thank you for giving a chance that I introduce myself as, my name is Rawia, and I am the chairperson of Sudanese Women Union, and Salma Abdulrahman is a cultural secretary in Sudanese Women Union, and we every year we are celebrating the International Women's Day, and this is coming up now in 8th of March, or maybe after that, the first weekend. So I hope that we can work together through Salma or whoever and make the necessary connection. And thank you for this event. It is really very valuable. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for participating. Thank you for all of your work with the Sudanese Women's Union. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you very much for having us today and this evening. And thank you very much for the solidarity with the Sudanese people, with the Sudanese revolution. And I just wanted to I would like to say what is the latest slogan, or the slogan that's been in the people's mind and chatting after the coup, which is no sharing of power. That means no sharing of power with military, because people, they think that the military should back off to their barricades. If you translate that, or if you interpret that, it will say no partnership with them, no negotiation, because they think that there is no need to negotiate with military, because they don't have their job is not to go for power or for ruling, because people, they want this total civil ruling, no legitimacy, and not to give these people any legitimacy to them, to the military. So this is what we are asking, or our people asking the world, the international community, to respect these. This is what the Sudanese people want, and this did not came from day one, not from 11th of April 2019, but this came after a while, after when the people of Sudan, most of the people of Sudan, discovered what is the military wants to do, discovered this is just the security committee of al-Bashir. This is just a continuation of the outset al-Bashir regime. So we may talk, and you may find these slogans in the Twitters, in the websites, where you can find. And as they said, Dr. Amal said, and also Dr. Hassan, we need from the international community the action. What they're going to do is not just commenting the actions or saying that, oh, we don't want the killing of protesters in Sudan or revolutionists in Sudan. Plus, also there is one thing that the world and our friends in the world and the supporters of democracy and peace around the world, they have to notice that this revolution is a peaceful revolution, and the Sudanese people, they want it to be peaceful, and they're carrying on. I mean, like, this has been since the start. And if anybody wanted to do anything, or from the participant wanted to go for violence or anything, people will stop them immediately, and will not allow that. And also, it's because of the population of Sudan is the majority, I mean, like 60% is women. That's why, and they are suppressed. If the total population is suppressed, so they are the first one to go and to stand against what is the government or what the military is doing. And this has been happening since the coup of 1989. Plus, also, it's used because more than 34% of the population is used, as Dr. Amal said as well. So now we are finding in the street what we found in the streets. If you watch the news, if you follow these Twitter accounts, you will find that people in the streets, most of them are women, young people, chatting in the streets, going for what ready and voluntary wanted to die for the causes that they are after, the demands of the people, the peace, to die for the peaceful revolution, to die for that future. But they are not violent, and this is one of the I think this is one of the great revolution in the new or the greatest revolution in the new era. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Hassan. Thank you, Dr. Amal. Thank you, Rabia. Thank you, Salma. Thank you, Noura. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, the Food Rebellion UK. And we are looking forward to do more works together, and we're ready to provide all the connections, and we're ready to participate as individuals, as organizations, in all the events in the UK and outside the UK to support human rights and rights of access to food and right to food. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Also, I would like to say thank you to our speakers and participants as well. And also, I would like to say thank you again to Food Inequality Rebellion to give us this chance. And I hope now the picture, it became clear, and now we looking forward for the action and what shall we do to Sudan together. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you all for being here. I know that it's late in the UK, so thank you so much for spending your evening with us. And I hope that you all have an excellent night.